Good morning and welcome back, or good afternoon, and welcome back to PhotoJoseph's Photo Moment with the Q&A portion of the show. We just talked about whether it's better to shoot 4K or 1080p when you're vlogging, and I'm kind of leaning towards the 1080. It worked out really well. We've got a few good questions over here. Let's see what is going on. Ricardo says, I love using 4K for that exact reason, talking about punching into the frame, I'm sure. At my work, everything's delivered in 1080, but we use Blackmagic Ursas and my personal GH5 and GH4. So there you go. So if you're shooting professional work, if you're shooting for client delivery, even if it's 1080p, I still say 100% shoot 4K, great advantages to it. But for the more run and gun, the kind of thing where the requirement to reframe is minimal, the desire to reframe is going to be minimal because you're filling the frame with what you're doing, you're just out there shooting it, getting the shot, I wouldn't worry so much about it. The ability to punch in is far more interesting to me. Now there's the argument to be made that you'd say, well, okay, I get a 2.7x punch in with the extended teleconverter. If I'm shooting 4K to 1080, I get a 200% punch in, so I'm getting pretty close to that. Maybe not quite as far, but I'm getting pretty close to it. Why not do that and just have the range in there to begin with? And yes, you could, but then you still have the bigger file, so you have to do the scaling. And sometimes it's just, you know, when you're looking through the lens and you're like, oh, I'm going to punch into this shot later, it's just not the same as actually punching in and having that tighter shot and looking around at your scene zoomed in tighter. It's a different experience, and I would argue, I personally would much rather be shooting with the way the shot is going to look than shooting going, I'm gonna change that later. I'd rather just see it the way it's going to be. So that's what we can do with that. Robin says, the 12mm looks fantastic. It was a beautiful lens. This one's on loan. I have to send it back, unfortunately, but this 12mm 1.4 is pretty sweet. I've been saying the 8-18 zoom was my favorite vlogging lens, but I didn't even bring the 8-18 to India. I just brought the 12 for the wide, and yeah, that extra, I mean, it's quite a difference, right? The 8 starts at f2.8, right? And this is f1.4, so quite a bit shallower depth of field, quite a bit better light gathering capability. It's a sweet lens. Yeah, it's a sweet lens. Okay, Robin says, sorry if this was asked, but is autofocus faster and better in 1080 on the GH5? No, autofocus performance is the same whether you're in 1080 or 4K. There's no difference in there. Autofocus on the latest firmware for things like vlogging is actually a little bit better on the G9. It has the processors that are in the G9 and GH5S versus the GH5 are newer, and they have the body detection. Turns out the body detection autofocus, which is part of face detection, it just automatically jumps to body when it sees a whole body, works really well. It's really good. So yeah, so there's that. Let's see here. Vow of Practicality says, I wonder if 1080 footage will get ranked differently by YouTube in the future. Oh, that's an interesting question. Huh, very interesting question. Yeah, obviously I have no idea, and YouTube doesn't tell us anything, so there you go. John Roberts, it's going to take you a while to stop saying good morning, isn't it? Yes, it is, especially since I'm doing a morning and an afternoon show. I'm going to have to put like a sign up. It's not morning, dummy. Maybe I'll put that like right above the camera. Ricardo, I never thought about the teleconverter. I've always just cropped in post. We'll give this a go next time. You can even use the teleconverter in 4K mode, but then it's let me see here. I actually have that. I did a screenshot of that. It's a much less of a crop because you're basically going from the whole sensor just a little bit less. It is a 1.4x, actually more than I thought it would be. So if you're shooting 4K Ultra HD and you use the extended teleconverter, you go to a 1.4x. So that's actually pretty significant. Okay, I thought it was less than that. So that's good to know too. So you have that option. Incidentally, I should have mentioned this in the main show. There is a digital zoom option. Don't use that. The digital zooms gives you a 2x and 4x zoom option, but that is actually scaling up. You don't want that. So don't use the digital zoom. You want to use the extended teleconverter because that is a crop into the sensor. Don't use the digital zoom. Okay, Emax2 extended teleconverter works in 4K too. Yep, yes it does. Oh, I missed one. Going back up. Let's see here. Where are we? Trevor Pinnicky says, can you think of any delivery platform where 4K is the standard yet? Because I can't. No, it's not a standard. I mean, okay. Every TV you buy today is 4K, right? This is, I mean, you're hard pressed to buy a 1080p TV anymore. Everything is 4K from the hardware side. Of course, if you play something that's in 1080p and it scales up to 4K on your television, it still looks great. Does it look as good as original native 4K? No. It's close. It's not like a massive difference. The difference between 1080p and 4K when you're looking at it on screen, there's a difference, but it's not like a blow your mind difference. It's not like the difference was when you went from standard def to high def, right? That was a blow your mind difference. HD to Ultra HD, 1080p to 4K, It's better, obviously, but it's not mind-blowing better. Mind-blowing better is HDR, right? If you look at a show that's shot in HDR, you watch something like, I don't know, what's the underground scary show, Netflix? I have no idea what anything's called anymore. Netflix has some really good shows in HDR. I'm sure some people are watching a comment. Give me some names of the shows. Why am I? Stranger Things was HDR. What's the super sci-fi one? God, am I forgetting the name of this? It was like right on the top of my tongue. The really weird sci-fi show that looks so good in HDR. That makes a huge difference. And you can shoot HDR. That's something we're going to have to get into one of these days because you can do HDR on these cameras too. But the difference between 1080p and 4K, it's not as much of an important thing as we might think. Anyway, it's a bit of a rant. Marco Polo on Netflix is HDR. Oh, cool. Well, I've watched that a long time ago. I guess there's a new season, isn't there? I'm going to check that out. So much good stuff to watch. Okay. Onward. Ali says, there is a feature on the 12 to 60 Leica or other lenses that faster you rotate the lens ring, the faster the focus point moves. Correct, if you know what I mean. Is there a way to turn that off in camera? There is not. What you're talking about is focus by wire. It is how all of these lenses are designed. There is no mechanical connection between the focus ring and the actual focusing mechanism. It is definitely one of those things that anybody who's a filmmaker goes, ooh, I'd rather have a mechanical connection to that, a geared connection to it. It's why lenses like the Vedra lenses are quite popular, because they do have that physical connection. If you're going to do something like use a focus pulling system, or you just want to have that more predictable focus rack, then unfortunately, no, with these lenses that we're talking about here, the 12 to 60, these other Leicas, you just don't have that. I would say for most uses, you get used to it and you learn how to control it at the speed that you want. It's not as perfect as having a geared lens for that regard, but the advantages of having the focus by wire lens are, like you said, you spin it, it goes faster, so you can very quickly get from one focus range to the other. There's internally, technically, there's some other advantages to it. And once you're used to it, it's fine, but I totally get why you would want it. I'm not discounting that at all. And unfortunately, no, there's no way to turn that off. There's no way to lock the gears on the lens on these Panasonic lenses. Okay. Let's see here. All this is really annoying and unprofessional for filmmaking and focus pulling. Well, keep in mind that these lenses weren't designed as filmmaker exclusive lenses, right? These lenses are designed for general use for both photography and video use. They make beautiful video lenses. They absolutely do, but they weren't designed just for filmmakers. They're designed for both. And as a still photographer, having that would not be good. You want to have that ability to rack focus more quickly. So, you can buy filmmaking lenses. You can buy cinema lenses. There's plenty of them on the market. John Roberts, the 15-1.7 is my go-to vlogging lens. 15-1.7 is a beautiful lens. I did a video on that. I did a show on that not that long ago. We'll link to that up here. That was a lot of fun. It's a great lens. Love it, love it, love it. And very small and lightweight too. Definitely a good choice. Sean Mark Dipper says, would you agree that shooting in 4K and down-resing looks better in post or no difference? The only advantages that you might see is some subsampling in very, very fine detail. If you were to do a bunch of shots side by side and do a side-by-side comparison, look at them up close side by side, you probably can tell the difference, and you would probably say, yeah, the one that was 4K originally looks ever so slightly better. But no one's going to watch a show that was shot 1080 or watch one that was shot 4K and downsampled, down-resed, and go, oh, that was definitely down-resed. Oh, that was definitely shot for 1080 native. I really don't think anybody's going to be able to see that difference. It's the kind of thing you would only see side by side and because you're looking for it. So, the quality difference, like minuscule more, not worth it for the kind of stuff we're talking about here. For vlogging kind of thing, for sure. All right. Alex Eminar says, I've seen test footage that shows the extended tele is cleaner than cropping in post. Interesting. That would be an interesting test, actually. I haven't done a test like that, but that would be interesting. It makes sense. Trace Aiken says the Mevo only does 1080, right? Correct. But you can do punch-ins and reframing as if it's multicam. The Mevo records 4K internally. It's a 4K sensor, but it's streaming 1080p. That's how you get the different angles out of it. So it is a 4K sensor cropped into 1080. The file that's recorded internally, though, is a 4K file so that you can do that reframing in post later on. And Alex Eminar says you can get good results using the 2x digital zoom. The 4x is garbage. So it's interesting you say that. I'm not sure. I tried to find out, and I was unable to come to a conclusive answer, whether using the 2x digital zoom is punching into the sensor or if it's still scaling it. I mean, it's got a lot of extra pixels to scale, so even if it's scaled, it probably would not actually be scaling. 4X is beyond 100% crop. There's no question about that. It has to be scaling. 2X, is it scaling? Is it punching in? If it is scaling, it's fine because it's still not scaling it past 100%, so it's probably okay. But then you're at 2X and not the 2.7. So you could, if you did your own tests, all right, let's put it this way. If you're going to do your own tests and conclude that the 2X is perfectly good, and even if there is something you're like, it's good enough, then you could have different shortcuts set up, different function buttons set up, one to take you to digital zoom and move it to 2X, just stay away from 4X, and one to take you to the extended teleconverter. And then you'd have your 2.0 and your 2.7X crop. So if we were to look at our chart, that would give you, let's see here, it would basically give you the full frame equivalent, right? So you would have a 12 millimeter would be, well, let's see here, let's do that. Oops, now I'm messing with my formula here. Wait, stop, there we go. Let's do this. I'm gonna get rid of the full frame equivalent. No, I don't wanna do that. I wanna do 2X, so that's a 2X, so that is this, means, do we wanna do a full frame equivalent? No, we'll just do this times 2. Well, it's just the same as the full frame, so then we need to do, okay, here, let's do it this way. Sorry. We're gonna do this 2X as full frame equivalent, so that means it's this full frame equivalent times 2. Oh, right, it's just basically times 4 from the original source. Right, that's what that is. So you would have a 24 equivalent, a 48 equivalent, and a 65 equivalent. There would be your 3 numbers. Yeah, that's the right math. So there you go. A 25 mil lens is a 50 mil full frame equivalent and a 100 and a 135 if you use the 2X and the 2.7X. Okay, does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. But yeah. So if you find that it's good enough, then go ahead and do that. It's an extra button. It's another one to push. It's another one to remember you don't go to 4X. And you can actually double it up. So you could go into the extended teleconverter and then add the digital zoom on top of it. And then you're really screwed because then you're definitely zooming in and it's going to look terrible. So you got to be careful you don't do that. But if you find that 2.7X is too much, you could try the 2. It's worth trying. It is worth trying. All right. Let's see here. Anything else? Nope, nothing else in there. All right, guys. Hey. Thank you so much for tuning in today. It was a lot of fun. I hope the afternoon show works out well for some of you guys. Let's see how, good live numbers here, that's for sure. So that's good to see. So I guess it is working out for somebody. And as always, if you have any other questions you didn't think of during the live show, just pop them into the comments. I will do my best to get to them later on. And with that, I guess we're done. Take care of yourselves, everybody. Have a great rest of the week. We'll see you again on Wednesday for a live training on, what are we doing? Luminar. I think that's what we're doing. Take care. Bye-bye.